Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Queue, and in this video I'm going to be taking a close look at the tech tree Tier 8 German ground attack aircraft, the Messerschmitt Me 329. Hello there, and having recently done a video on a Tier 8 premium ground attack aircraft, I thought I'd feature one from one of the regular tech trees. So we have on the tarmac outside the hangar the German Messerschmitt Me 329. Also from Tier 8, of course. And this aircraft just about got beyond the design and concept phase in the winter of 1944-1945. A full-scale glider was tested, but there was no priority in the project and it was cancelled shortly thereafter. It had been intended to replace the Me-410, so not only as a ground attack aircraft, but also as a heavy fighter. In World of Warplanes, it's assigned the role of a ground attack aircraft. Advanced flying wing design, pusher props, and quite a handsome aircraft, I believe. Now, as usual, we're going to go off and look at the statistics of the aircraft. If you don't want to look at a spreadsheet, then use the link below the video to skip ahead to another part of it. So here we have my spreadsheet with all of the Tier 8 ground attackers. There are 4 of them, as you can see. And as usual, I'm going to take a minute to explain how this spreadsheet works. If you already know that, then feel free to use the link below to skip ahead to a discussion of the statistics. So the Me 329 occupies columns C and D, and the other ground attackers have 2 columns of their own each, as you can see to the right. And down the left we have the information that you can see in the hangar UI. That's been supplemented a little by information from a third-party website concerning these attributes: auto-aim angle on the guns, dispersion angle on the guns, and overheat time. And more or less the important one there is the overheat time. The statistics for the aircraft are in this table here, which I'm now circling. Hope you can see that. We just look at the comparison. Configuration for each of these aircraft was taken back to stock. Ordnance was mounted. Of course, it's a ground attacker. It has to carry ordnance or it's not attacking ground targets. Equipment was removed and the pilot sent back to the barracks. The modules are all top, and as far as colour coding is concerned, green indicates best in class, light blue second best in class, light purple third best in class, and if there's an orange colour or a gold colour behind the aircraft name, that indicates that it's a premium plane. And then I reverse the logic using red colours for worst in class figures, but bear in mind there are only 4 aircraft in this comparison. Okay, so let's discuss the attributes of the aircraft. As ever, we'll start with the armament, and it's relatively good news. Although this is only a comparison of 4 aircraft, the rating for the armament, for firing armament in this particular case, is 50, which is second best in class, and the DPS is 800. This is a little bit short of the IL-20, which both has the ability to hit more powerfully and at rather greater range, hence the rating being much higher than that of the Me 329. But there are compensations on offer, as we'll see as we go through the rest of the statistics. It's certainly quite a bit better than the NC 1070, and there's a hidden bonus here. Because the Me 329 is actually quite a bit faster than the NC 1070, when you're closing in on, for instance, a gun emplacement in the NC 1070, you can often feel that you're taking a lot of damage from that gun emplacement. The speed at which you close it towards it with the Me 329 means that it feels a lot less, even though you'll notice that the range is about 200 feet less, very nearly 300 feet less. Auto aim angle is probably 1 degree, which is effectively as good as saying there's no assistance from the game when you're aiming at aircraft. This isn't really meant for dogfighting. Having said that, with a bit of practice, you can deal an awful lot of destructive damage to enemy targets that are careless enough to get in front of you, particularly if they come head on. Dispersion angle 0.55. When you're aiming at ground targets, unless you're not really looking at them, then the accuracy is probably not going to matter. Overheat time is 10 seconds, which is equal best in class, and that's useful because you can keep pumping the short shots out. And again, with reference to the NC 1070 that I reviewed recently, I often felt the guns were struggling to do damage before they overheated. I very rarely feel that with the Me 329. Gun armament, turret's pretty good. The range is the same as the NC 1070 and the IL-20. It's only 144 DPS, which is considerably less than the NC-1070 and the IL-20, but it's good enough. It will still deter bots, and provided you're motoring along, bearing in mind that this aircraft is fairly quick, you can keep light fighters that are determined at a distance and do them a lot of damage before they can start using their weaponry on you. Ordnance, well, on the face of it, this seems like it's not very good. It's third best in class, which is actually worst in class because the NC-1070 and the IL-10M actually are equal second best in class. But the bomb reload is really interesting. It's 45 seconds, which is quicker than any reload on any of the other aircraft, particularly the dreadful reload on the NC-1070. And of course, this can be improved by a suitable choice of equipment, which I would advise you do. And in that case, you'll find that your bombs are reloading in something like 34-35 seconds, which means that effectively that when you're attacking even a large sector like a mining plant, you're probably going to get 2 bomb loads in. And that makes the damage more or less equal to the NC-1070 when it's attacking a mining plant, because effectively once it's dropped its bombs, it's hanging around for at least a minute and a half, assuming you've improved this 120 seconds to around about 85, before it can do anything really useful again. So don't be fooled by the ordnance. Because it reloads so quickly, it's actually very usable. Survivability, more than the IL-10M, but this is a fairly fragile aircraft. You're paying for manoeuvrability and speed here in this aircraft with less robustness. However, the damage resistance and the fire resistant figures are fairly good. Airspeed, best in class. And it really feels it. This can motor along, and this will get you between sectors normally pretty quickly. And it's not often you'll be feeling that you're twiddling your thumbs whilst you're waiting to go off and do something at another sector, which is useful for your team. Maximum boost speed 404, cruise speed 273. These are all good figures. And the manoeuvrability, okay. It looks on the face of it as if it's only a little bit more mobile than the NC-1070 and the IL-20. Well, maybe it's because I play a lot of fighters. I can make this thing turn pretty well, and I can often fool heavy fighters into turning with me, and they then have the unappealing prospect of finding that I'm confronting them head on. So it seems more mobile than these figures would suggest. Bear that in mind. It's particularly if you know how to turn a fighter, you can use the same techniques on this and really fling it about a bit. Altitude performance, well, not really worth discussing. It's a ground attacker. It's meant to be flown at low altitude. This one, yeah, again, you can get it up, and you perhaps will be able to take a bomber or two from a bomber flight if you're very lucky, but your problem will be is that you start stalling, even in level flight. If we just look at the worst in class figures to see if there's anything we can glean that's useful from here. Actually, I don't think so. It's only a comparison for aircraft. I think we've done the bulk of it here. So what we've got, I think, is a ground attacker that on the face of it looks like it's fairly weak, but in fact those guns are pretty potent, and because the closing speed is fast, you very rarely feel you're taking unnecessary damage, particularly from gun emplacements. And the ordnance, which again looks on the face of it to be weak, is actually really usable because of a very short reload. And this makes this a nimble, versatile ground attacker, and I really enjoy playing it. Okay, so let's go and see how I've set this aircraft up. Back on the tarmac outside the hangar with the ME329, and the first thing to say is that my aircraft is specialised. That means I have all of the equipment and consumable slots available. But let's see what you'll be missing when you first acquire this aircraft. Just pop into service. I've popped into stock configuration already, and you can see that you'll be missing an equipment slot off the forward firing weapon and also the outboard weapon. As for consumables, well, you'll be able to do nothing with the ammunition on the turret, and you're missing a slot for the outboard weapon. Let's pop that back into Specialist and we'll start talking about what I've done with the aircraft. Okay, now this may surprise you here. I've got a gun sight on here, and having mentioned in the numbers section that accuracy isn't that important, I've learned that I do like to be quite offensive with this plane against enemy aircraft, and I frequently will be able to hit them when they're behind me, slow down, as this has got a relatively good stall speed, make them go past me, and then I will attack them with forward weapons. And I've decided that the gun sight with the improvement in accuracy is actually useful for that task. So there's nothing wrong with selecting probably cockpit armour to prevent the crew from getting injured, but I've decided to be aggressive here. More conservative choice on the airframe, ultimate reinforced skin. That's to stop the wings and tail being damaged. I know that there's only a rudder here, but you can still take tail damage, and if you're low to the ground and you'll lose your tail, then you're going to probably fly into the ground, which is annoying. Forward firing weapon, well, we've got 2 slots here, we're blessed. So I've chosen to use the reinforced bolt carriers in order to improve the burst length. Now if we just look at the bonus characteristics for this, I've probably got the wrong ones on because I haven't done a lot of configuration on this aircraft. So 10% cooldown rate, I would definitely go for that. There's a 5% cooldown rate at the top of that section, which I haven't chosen and probably would. And then, would I go for accuracy? Probably not. Burst length, maybe. Rate of fire, yeah. That could, any of those would be good choices. I would probably keep the rate of fire. Just to keep pumping the shots out and get that DPS up even higher from the 800 base that it already is. And then I mentioned the rather short range, 2021 feet of the guns, so we've got ultimate long gun barrels on for increased firing range. And if you look over to the right, you'll see that my range has gone up from that 2021 by 200 feet. That's useful. And that really does mean that when I'm approaching gun emplacements, especially at the speed this aircraft can go, I really don't feel I'm taking unnecessary damage. Bonus characteristics here, chance of inflicting critical damage, accuracy, and chance of inflicting critical damage. I'd probably go for the 5% damage inflicted by forward firing armament, which is the 4th one there. Probably go for the burst length again, and I'd probably I'd probably have all 3 of the other characteristics if I was thinking about it and reassembling right now. And that brings us to the final piece of equipment. Well, I've already mentioned that the base reload rate is 45 seconds. I'd like to get that down as far as possible, so strengthened hard points for me is the best choice here. That brings it down to 39 seconds, I think. There it is, 39 seconds. And you can do more. This equipment is not calibrated, and I haven't really looked at the bonus characteristics, but I can tell you. We look at them now. Bombing accuracy, well, yeah, could keep that one. Rocket accuracy, I definitely shouldn't have. There are no rockets on this machine. Could improve the cruise speed, but actually I'd probably go for my 10% bomb reload speed at the bottom, and then the bombing accuracy, and then possibly one of the speed characteristics. So we could probably get that 39 seconds down that I just flashed up in front of you here. 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds less. It'll be really quick. Consumables, 2-seater plane, so I use a first aid kit. The damage resistance, fire resistance on this aircraft is plenty high enough not to worry about a fire extinguisher. For a bit more speed, I've put on the improved mixture control. Engine cooling could be useful. Another 10 seconds of boost to get to between sectors on large maps. That would be useful, but you pay your money and you take your choice. Universal ammunition in the next 2 slots. As everybody knows, I don't use gold. And then to give those bombs a bit more damage, improve fragmentation. Now, of course, I am building a pilot for this plane, but it's not a crew trainer, so what would I suggest first? Well, first off, demolition expert, definitely. Protection expert, second. After that, probably engine guru 1. I'm at the stage where I've got battle tested, which is providing some useful health bonuses to my crew. Not so much the air controllability of the aircraft, not so worried about that. But now I've got the skill point, I'm strongly considering taking off battle tested and putting on engine guru 2. And then I might work my way up to battle tested again, and then after that perhaps possibly resilience, but that's a long way in the future. Not really bothered about marksman 1 or 2, probably skills that I would not prioritise until very late in the day. On the gunner, and what we've done, this is a standard setup for me. Defensive fire, probably first, because that reduces the damage that you take from pursuing planes. Well, planes that are firing at you as well. From the front, if you can actually turn quickly on them and get your rear gun on them, you can reduce the damage that they do to you by 30%. Precision gunner, this is very useful. The real bonus of this is the number of critical hits you get off the rear gunner, particularly if you take out the engine of a pursuing aircraft and leave it wallowing behind you, and then you can just keep on hitting it mercilessly with the rear gun. We've chosen armourer. Okay, I've said before, and I'll say it again, since the turrets don't appear to have a burst length, then increasing it by 50% means that you're increasing it by nothing. So this is a nothing skill, but unfortunately it leads to this rather useful skill, the ballistics expert, which increases the range of fire by 10%. What you could do, I suppose, is actually gather up 2 points here and put them on quick reflexes and then labour towards another 3 points and then get all of these at the same time. Basically, that would work, and possibly you should do it. Right, so that's a discussion of how I've set up the aircraft. That's a discussion of pilot skills. I think it's time to go and see how it performs in battle. The map for the forthcoming battle is Albion. It's the final argument variant with 5 sectors laid out pretty much in the pattern of 5 spots of a die. Now, must apologise for the bug here. We can't actually see the central symbols for all of these sectors. I hope you're familiar enough with them not to be off-put by that. Can't help it, unfortunately. Slight bug in the replay. And what we have on one axis flanking a central repair airbase are a pair of garrisons. These are the make-weights in the battle. And then on the other axis flanking the central airbase are 2 military bases. So we have very important sectors all in a line here, military bases, 2 of them, and then a central repair airbase. And the airbase, just to remind you, being centrally located, it's very useful to be able to spawn there. That will give you easy access to the other sectors throughout the game, as well as the virtue of the airbase being in the centre tactically anyway, which would normally provide pretty good access to the other sectors. And in addition, if you want to swap your aircraft for another of the same tier having been destroyed, you can, or you can get full repairs at the airbase. As you know, military bases, extremely valuable. Not only do they convey the standard resources, but they also fire rockets at enemy targets to try and flip them to your side, unless you persist in going to the sectors that they're firing at and die, which many people do. Just a tip there. Remember, always look to see where your military bases are firing. And basically, to try and win this game, you'd want to be able to possess at least 1 military base in the air base for much longer than the enemy, and preferably the other military base as well. Look at the order of battle. I'm top tier in my ME329, and then I've got a pair of tier 7s at the bottom here, an ME3265, which is the tier 7 equivalent of my plane, and then an A7M, which could dominate the middle, although it is down tiered. The enemy has a P-80A, which is a powerful high energy fighter with the 2nd best DPS in class these days. And then unfortunately, although it's down tiered, they have a B-32 and an IL-10. And on the face of it, with all that ground attacking capability and 2 military bases to try and take, I felt the enemy probably had a slight advantage here. Anyway, let's go and see how the battle turned out. So, I want to get the military base that's closest to our spawn working for us as quickly as possible, so I'm going to swing right immediately and head there. And interestingly, the ME265 appears to be going straight to the centre. That might not be a bad thing. We shall see. Now, my normal reminder, although with ground attackers it's perhaps less important, remember that the World of Warplanes team smooths their replays, and a byproduct of that is that the reticle can seem to be off target when you're hitting enemy aircraft or enemy targets. It's not a mod, it's not a setting, and I'm not cheating. Take out a gun, and now I want to make sure I destroy at least 1 target here, so that's the 10s down. It's useful to take out the 10-10 targets anyway. Both bombs are going to go in here. And that's fully destroyed, I can tell from the use of my Precious mod, and we have the military base. Well, that's good news, but you'll notice the enemy have already got their military base. They've also managed to take their garrison, and we haven't even started on that. And the airfield is contested. In fact, it was slightly red for a moment there. It's gone back to being slightly blue. I'm really interested in the military base, but there's only one way to get there quickly, and that's through the centre, and I may as well try and help my team take it. So we head in. As you see, the bombs are up already. Nice quick reload. In contrast to the previous ground attacker that I reviewed, the NC-1070, where the reload is horrendous, even with strengthened hardpoints. And I'm looking backwards here at the moment, shooting at the aircraft behind me. Unfortunately, you can't show that in the replays. I see the P-80A. He pays me no attention, so I decide to get his attention. And I do that by sending him back to the hangar. You would have done better to break off the other ground attack and go for me there. Take out another target. You can see that these guns are pretty handy at fairly close range. If you can aim them correctly, and you've got a 1 degree auto-aim angle, so you have to aim correctly. But if you do manage to hit enemy aircraft with your forward weapons, they're going to melt. Rear gunner's not too bad as well. Not as good as the NC-1070, but certainly capable. Here we are again, shooting away at something behind me. I'm weaving about to throw them off so that they can't damage me as quickly as they otherwise might. And here we are, arriving at the military base. Take out the gun to make sure I don't take unnecessary damage. Now I want to take out a tented target to make sure I get something out of the sector. Must destroy a target in a sector in order to earn a sector for one of the class-specific missions. Both bombs into the centre of the special object. Take out another gun. Take out another gun. See, it didn't look like I was shooting. In fact, I wasn't by the end. Unfortunately, I've overflown the tents. That would have been good to shoot those, but there's another set over here. Then I get notice that the KI is causing us problems, the 84, so I decide to shoot that down as well. And at this moment, we've made a good start. 4 sectors to 1. But I can see we're going to lose our military base, so I'm going to head back there. Now, unfortunately, I've got no boost, so it's going to be, even with this fairly nimble ground attacker, it's going to be a long haul. And in the meantime, I can see that the enemy is also making good progress towards taking the airbase, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get in there and interfere, perhaps shoot down that IL-10. Just got to be patient. And perhaps I might have put engine cooling on this plane for an extra 10 seconds. There are plenty of big maps. Right, so we're now beginning to size up what we need to do here. So the fighter went down. That leaves me free to attack the IL-10. Got to do it fairly quickly if I'm going to do it at all. Base is nearly captured. Not going to get repairs here. They've destroyed the maintenance shed. Just flew over it as you saw. Got the IL-10 down. And I decide that's enough of dogfighting probably. Keep an eye on the multi-roll to see if it's coming towards me. It isn't. And now I'm off to the military base. Let's have a look at the scores. 315 to 258. It's still anyone's game. With the B-32 in the game, and we've got no heavy to stop him, there's certainly no room to relax here. I'm going to take out storage facility in the centre. That gives me a clear run for the bombs through the centre without them hitting a building. For the second time in the game, a bomb lands on the target just as I drop my bombs. I missed the tent there. And then catastrophe. I thought I could swing inside the radio mast. Here we are. So we're going to go to the military base, and going into the radio mast proved to be more significant than I ever realised at the time, because we went 4 sectors to 1 down. And as we can see, the scores now are 438 and 375, but we're still 3 sectors to 2 down. The central air base is important. That said, I can't afford to ignore enemy aircraft in my vicinity. It turns out to be an IL-10 bot, and he's flying conveniently into the centre. So I take him out. It looks as if he might have just been on the edge. Didn't see whether the pie reduced or not there. So now we look for ground targets. So we take out the guns, try and avoid damage if we can. And unfortunately, our military base is firing at exactly the same target, so I swing away so I can go and do something else more quickly and let the military base finish it off. We just saw the symbol rocket about to land. bombs. I'm in good orientation for the control tower, so we're going to drop both bombs here. And then just as I did that, the military base fired at it, so I wasted my bombs. Find another target. And that's flipped this target, which is good, but the bad news is the enemy are still 3-2 up. And they're beginning to get a grip on this game. I'm firing backwards, but I just remembered that the ground rises at the end of the base and got control of the aircraft just in time. So we're firing backwards again. We're weaving about. You can go up and down as well as side to side. I prefer side to side, but for instance, a good player like Awesome Pete will use pitch up and pitch down to move his aircraft up and down. And if there are two guns on the rear, that might just bring both into play. So bear in mind there are different techniques for trying to reduce the damage from pursuing aircraft. I don't want to take any damage if I can avoid it, so I shoot out this gun and then orientate myself with a special object. Soften it up with the guns, Winged Legend goes through, both bombs in. Go for the tents. And I missed one. Was a tight one there. It would have been better to be patient. Take out a gun, swing round, and this time we'll finish off the tents, provided I don't get shot down beforehand. That's the tents finished, and we've got the military base. And just as I was beginning to relax, the enemy took our military base. And if we now have a quick check of the scores, we can see they've crept ahead. In fact, they've got a useful 50-point lead or thereabouts. And I've got no boost again. Same situation as previously. I boosted to get here. I haven't recovered boost so I can go anywhere else. And at this point, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to pull this game out of the hat. Fortunately, we capture a sector, so we're beginning to eat at 3 points every 5 seconds into the lead that the enemy has. And it's just a question of whether I can possibly get to this military base and flip it before the end of the game. And the danger is that the military base will flip the airfield. You can see it's firing at it. Our military base will be firing at the garrison. It's not going to flip that very quickly. And then I find the human at IL-10, and I'm caught here. I don't know whether just to ignore him when I come upon him and let him go to the airfield. I probably could have, to be fair. Or whether I should shoot him down and make sure that the airfield doesn't get taken by the combined efforts of the military base and him. Anyway, he's coming straight at me, so I'm going to size him up. I'll go to at least damage him. And then I notice the P-80A, as it turns out. He fired rockets at me, I turn on him. But the P-80A is in attendance, so I want the rear gun to do damage to the P-80A. I'm going to try and reduce the health of the IL-10. And now I need to concentrate on the P-80A. And I'm actually shooting backwards at the moment. I'm looking backwards off. Left the IL-10 alone, and that was the P-80A being shot down by the rear gun. How are we doing? It's a dead heat. And they've just managed to sneak a draw. What a close game. Not too bad against the B-32. I felt that they had the advantage. We've pulled a draw out. I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't get the win, but 17,915 personal points and a couple of medals. Not a bad game. Let's take a look at the result of this close fought battle. And as we can see from the centre, it's a 5 chevron battle, or a grade 1 attack aircraft. And that grossed 112,521 credits, or silver if you prefer, of which nearly 38,000 came from the premium account bonus. If we look in the message box, we can see that expenses 9,400 credits, that's for losing the aircraft. I was using prepaid consumables. 2,904 aircraft experience, bonuses are shown there, the premium account bonus and liveries and the like. 145 free experience with a bonus there from the premium account. 2 tokens, both for first medals of the day, Hero of the Sky and a Winged Legend. Look at the personal score tab, we can see that only one of the class specific missions was completed, but the other 2 were 4/5 complete. That's enough to get the 5 chevrons. Personal points of 17,915, 5 sectors captured, which is what you need to do in a ground attack if you can get it about the map and keep capturing sectors. 6 aerial targets destroyed, 3,357 damage to aerial targets and criticals of 11. Lost the aircraft once, as mentioned, 565 capture points in all, received, 40 for defending and 525 for attacking. And again, if you're not sure why this figure is different from that one, this one is specifically capture points received for attacking ground targets, the difference being some of these points were for attacking aerial targets. 9 ground targets destroyed with 72,749 damage being done. When we look at the team score tab, we can see that was enough for first place, both by personal points and by chevron, so that would have been the case on both teams. The ME 265, the tier 7 down-tiered ground attack, a pretty decent effort there, I think. A7M dropped out of the game at the start and then came back in, so was clearly having problems, so that probably explains why that's a fairly low score for an aircraft that potentially could have dominated the central sector. IL-10, that's pretty good, 10,000 there. The B-32, only 3 chevrons, but as you can see, 12,000 personal points, and that really was the reason why they managed to get the draw. And the P-80A put himself about a bit to pretty good effect as well. So a close-fought battle and probably a draw was what both teams deserved. And that concludes my look at the Messerschmitt Me 329, which on paper looks as if it might be a little bit lightweight for ground attacking, but in fact the guns seem to perform quite a lot better than the numbers would suggest. And it's mobile, which means it gets about from sector to sector quite quickly, and that makes it, in my opinion, a pretty effective machine. Well, I hope you found that useful, and that if you did, you'll come and see my future content. But until then, this is the Noble Q, signing out.